We continue our lessons into these viruses. So viruses again be a bit different from living organism. Okay, so after we have done for this part, then we decide. Okay, and we can debate or argue whether viruses they are living or non-living. Okay, so generally all viruses they are microscopic, very small. Okay, they are parasites. Microscopic parasites. What is a parasite? Later, you after the class, you will know that why we call it as parasites. Okay, in terms of their size, they are generally smaller than bacteria. Okay, generally they are smaller. Okay, than the bacteria, roughly about 20 to 300 nanometer only. So if you look at the bacteria, it's roughly 50 times smaller, right, on average than the bacteria. Okay, and viruses, we do know that highlights, they have a very simple non-cellular structure. So what's mean non-cellular structure here? So basically, you won't be able to get cytoplasm. You won't be able to see nucleus. You won't be able to see the mitochondria, ribosome. You won't be able to see the chloroplast in the virus because they do not have the cellular structure. Okay. So all viruses, okay, they must have these two parts. All viruses, they must have these two parts. Highlight genetic material and protein code, which also known as capsid. Okay, so it depends on which book you are using. Some also call it as a capsisomes, okay, but it's the same thing. So in our syllabus, you either can call it a capsid or protein code, okay? And in some cases, some of the viruses, sorry, they have a second protective layer here known as envelope. And this envelope is made of phospholipid. Okay, so this phospholipid we're going to learn. Okay, don't worry about the phospholipid term. I will explain it later. So from the term here, phospho means phosphate, lipid. So means that is the one that form, we learn, right? Triglyceride, glycerol together with the fatty acid. So triglycerides with the glycerol and fatty acid now together with the phosphate form this what we call the phospholipid. Okay, so phospholipid is very important components of the cell membranes. Okay, so it's envelope. Okay, but not all viruses have envelope, or in some viruses only. Okay, so these are the things that you need to know. But I also want to introduce you guys a term. Some books use the word virions. Now, what is a virions? So generally, we only call it as a virus when they are inside the host cells. So what does it mean a host cell? When talk about the host cell, basically means that the cells where virus are going to infect and some sort of living. Okay, put the inverted comma there, living inside. So this cell is called a host cell. So when you use the word host cells, means that it's a virus. Okay, so while not inside the infected cells or the host cells, so viruses exist in the form of independent viral particles. So means that outside the host cell, they are just like our table. It's just like our water. It's just like our any non-living things there. So basically, they just like a particle. And this particle, we call it as the virions. Are you clear? But inside the host cell, the infected cells, then this virus, the virus is known as virus. Okay, so again, this one, guys, do not need to know for the word of virions unless you come across the word virions. So from this part, what you guys need to know, highlights, put an asterisk or star here, B and C, 2B and 2C statements you need to know. Are you clear? So I will highlight the parts that you need to know. Okay, so non-cellular structure consists of two parts: genetic material, protein code. There's must. All viruses must have these two parts. So in some cases, they may have this envelope. This envelope, for example, HIV. Okay, HIV, this virus do have envelopes. Okay. So now look at this diagram. Okay, in activity 1.2. So take 1 minute to label the diagram. Okay, then I will disclose the answer. So in activity 1.2, we're going to look at the structure of a virus, and the diagram in figure 1.2 show this virus HIV. Okay, now one thing is, be careful. HIV, the V here already means virus. So don't tell people HIV virus, then it becomes human immunodeficiency virus. Are you clear? So HIV, the V already stands for virus already. So normally we talk about HIV full stop. We don't say HIV virus. Are you clear? Okay. So in this case, the virus here is the HIV. HIV, they have the envelope. So always remember, we talk about envelope is a second protective layer, right? Or protective membrane there. So let us look at it. First one, outermost layer. So outermost layer, they will have the viral envelope or just envelope. Are you clear? Either viral envelope or just envelope. Okay. Second, so look at this structure. Okay, the first structure here is the viral envelope. And then second, you can see that here, the yellow color, this is called as the protein code, or called capsid. Can you see that, guys? This yellowish color here is the protein code. So all viruses, they will have this protein code. Okay. And you can see that a bit like a thread-like structure here. And the thread-like structure, the blue color, that is the genetic material. Okay, so for viruses, they can be either DNA or RNA. Okay, it can be either DNA or RNA. So, but for HIV, is a RNA. Okay, you do not need to remember whether DNA or RNA until we reach that particular topic, which is infectious diseases. Okay. So genetic material, which is RNA. Get it correct? Okay. So now we continue. So the DNA or the RNA found in the core of the virus, so it can be either single-stranded or double-stranded. Okay, it can be either single-stranded or double-stranded. So it constitutes the genome or the sum total of the virus genetic information. I will tell you guys more about this genetic information later. And this genetic information, why we need it or virus need it, because this genetic information is something like our gene. So if without the gene, then we won't have the protein. For example, how we have the amylase, how we have this enzyme, how we have this protein, how we have this hormone, all already stored in this genetic informations in our DNA. So basically, I call it as a cookbook. Are you clear? It's basically a cookbook. So what protein you want to make? You open the book, okay, search for that particular protein. Oh, we want to code for the hemoglobin. Oh, this is protein hemoglobin. Oh, we use this for the cook. Okay, so virus also have this cookbook, or we call it as the genetic material or informations, DNA or RNA. So this DNA RNA will be used as the instruction to cause the cells to produce protein. So what kind of protein that needed for the virus? So the protein needed, for example, capsid protein, right? Okay? The protein codes, enzymes, and the protein necessary for the replication within the host cells. Okay, so important part here you need to know is number 3. Okay, so highlights either single-stranded or double-stranded. Okay, then they do have these capsid proteins, capsid protein. Okay, So what is the functions here? The capsid or the protein coat is the viral protective layer to protect what? The capsid here is help to protect the nucleic acid from being hydrolyzed and destroyed by the host cell's enzyme. Okay? You try to imagine that if you have a area, okay, someone enter, stranger enter, you're going to chase them out or you're going to kill them, right? Because they enter into your compound. So same, if the virus infected the cell, our body tends to produce the enzyme to destroy the nucleic acids. So therefore, this capsid is very important to protect the viral nucleic acid. Okay, so write down here, not humans one, not the host cell, but the viral nucleic acid. Okay, and we do know that some viruses have the second protective layer known as the envelope. But a bit special about this envelope. If you look at the viruses, they won't produce envelope. Are you clear? They won't produce their own envelope. This envelope actually derived from the cell's membrane of a host cell and is modified and repurposed for the virus to use. Okay, so basically they modified the cell membrane from the host and then repurpose it for the virus, which is a second protective layer. Clear? Which is a second protective layer. Okay, so until this part, so I repeat again, what are the items you need to know, which are highlights here. First, all viruses consist of two parts. These two parts are genetic material. So this genetic material either can be DNA or RNA. Okay, we're going to learn about this DNA and RNA. What is the main difference between differences between the DNA and RNA? Okay, when we learn about nucleic acids. Okay, in your second semester. Then the second ones. Okay, the first one is genetic material. Second one is the protein coat, or known as the capsid. So what is the function of capsid? Okay, so we need to know the capsid actually protects the viral nucleic acid from being hydrolyzed and destroyed by the host cell's enzyme. So it's something like the wall of your house or our house. So without the wall, then it cannot protect the things or any valuable thing inside our house. Okay. And some viruses actually have the second protective layer known as the envelope. So this one we need to know. So this envelope is not derived from the virus itself. The virus actually derived this envelope from the cell membrane of a host cell. And what they do, they modify these membranes and make them usable for the virus. Okay,